Pottery. We need lots of materials in order to be able to make pottery. But are your lack of resources, is that what keeping you from finding your own unique voice? Listen to this episode in order to find out if it's true or not. What is up, Shaping Nation? This is Nick Torres here. And on this episode of Shaping Your Pottery, I'm going to be talking about resources and if that is what's keeping you from finding your own unique voice with your pottery. A couple years ago, when my friend and I were doing pottery together, one of the things that I enjoyed the most was that we would be able to do things together. We would make pottery together, and I would use his kiln because I didn't have my kiln. I didn't have a kiln. I still don't have a kiln, but I would use his kiln, and I would pretty much just use his kiln and how be able to make stuff. But then he started focusing more on going to school, which is perfectly fine because it was bound to happen eventually. But he focused more on going to school, but I still wanted to make pottery. But the only problem was I didn't have necessarily the resources to finish my pottery because I didn't want to ask him all the time to go out and use his kiln, especially if he's not making pottery. That's not really fair to him because he has a manual kiln and it takes a lot longer with the manual kiln. So I didn't really want to ask him all the time to, fire my pottery, especially if he's not making it. So for the longest time, I thought that having a lack of resources was keeping me from finding my own unique pottery voice. So what did I do? I focused on building my skills up with my wheel throwing. So every single day, I was trying to improve my wheel throwing pots because I figured eventually he'll get back into it and we can start making pottery again together. So day after day, I focused on improving my pottery, improving my wheel throwing skills, and improving. And but the only problem was I was really kind of getting bored with what I was doing because I couldn't really finish the pottery that I was making. I was making the pottery, my pots. I'd make a 10-inch vase, and then I would just destroy it because there was no point in keeping it. So I would do that constantly. I would make something and it would look really, really cool, but I knew I couldn't get it fired, so I would just recycle it. And I thought for a while that, I need these resources. I need these resources in order to help me find my voice, in order to make something that looks really, really cool. But boy, was I wrong ever about that. So you see, you may be in a position right now similar to how I was, or how I still kind of am, where the resources you only have are that at a community studio, where you have to travel to a community studio. Maybe you want to use their wheel, use their kiln, whatever it is. But that's not necessarily true. That's not necessarily holding you back. Because the cool thing about pottery is that you can pretty much make pottery literally anywhere. All you need is a bag of clay, and that's it. And then you can go get your stuff fired at a community studio when you have enough of it filled up. So right now, if you think you don't have the resources in order to maybe throw on the wheel or do something that you would want to do with your pottery, here's my challenge to you. So instead of focusing purely on that one thing that you want to do, I know it's fun because I know for the longest time, all I wanted to do was just throw on the wheel. And I know that a lot of people just want to dig deep in that one thing. But if you don't have the necessary really resources in order to make that happen, how are you going to make your voice come to life? It's hard to make it come to life. So here's what I want you to do. Instead of focusing all your energy on that one thing where it's really hard to do because you're lacking the resources, try something where you don't need as many resources and just experiment with it. You can still do the other things that you like. Go to that studio every once in a while where you're throwing on the wheel. But try hand building. Try sculpting, try all these different things with your pottery because those are the things that are truly going to help you find your voice, or the things you're doing outside of your actual interests in pottery. Your interest may be wheel throwing, but if you don't have a wheel or a kiln at your home, then it's hard to practice it. But that's why I want to encourage you to practice other techniques in pottery so that once you are ready and once you're able to get the resources for having a wheel, having a kiln, then you can apply those skills into the pottery that you want to be making that needs the resources. There's always a way around these things. If you don't have the resources, practice something else until you get the resources. And then who knows, maybe that thing that you're practicing or experimenting with, maybe that ends up becoming your pottery voice. The idea of just having where you're saying, I don't have the resources, I don't have a wheel, I don't have a kiln, that is holding you back. That is a mindset that is holding you back from finding your own unique pottery voice. And we need to change up our phrasing a little bit. So instead of saying that I don't have the resources, try saying, I'm going to buy a bag, I'm going to just going to experiment with something. I'm just going to keep making pottery and keep making pottery and just keep on experimenting, right? If you can change your mindset of saying, instead of I need resources, instead I have all the resources I need, I just need to be making, then you're going to go a lot further and it's going to help you a lot more. Again, you don't need all the resources in order to make your pottery voice come to life. You just have to start experimenting with other things in pottery. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and remember to keep on making.